So I got to ask you about this, Greg. Give us the latest health on update on Casey Thompson,
Oh
because
boy.
it seems like that offense goes as Casey Thompson goes.
Yeah, well, it does for sure, Casey. Casey. um, he'll play. I mean, he's a gamer, and the injury that he has, his elbow injury, is something that actually could pop up at any day and make his whole hand numb. But he made it through Saturday's game against Wisconsin, which was bitter cold. And everybody knows that you play in the cold, you have an injury, and those hits you take it hurt a lot more than they do when it's nice out. But no, he came through unscathed, and I expect him a full go. Obviously with a short week right now, we haven't heard from anybody, from the team since the post game after the Wisconsin game on Saturday. We'll hear from those guys tomorrow, and we'll know more there. But he was fine. He was at the post game press conference, and no worse for wear. But he did mention that injury that he does have, could come back at any time. I mean, it's a day by day thing, and he'd actually, the games that he missed, he was actually badgering Mickey Joseph and the staff to play. He wanted to go out there and play no matter what, and it was kind of an evaluation thing, from the coaching staff, that they finally thought that he was ready to go. So, there's no setbacks. We'll just say that. So expect Casey Thompson to start the game.
Well, it's a good starting point in regards to matching up these two teams, because we're talking about two rosters that, from a talent standpoint, if you believe in recruiting rankings, are comparable, but if you believe in results and performance on the field, are miles apart. So we know that Iowa's playing for a championship. They're also a team that is just well-oiled on the defensive side of the ball, one of the elite defenses, special teams in the nation. Nebraska, to have a path in this game, we can talk psychology and incentive and flying by the seat of your pants because you just don't care and you're playing your last game of the season and all that. But this is a team that could only muster about 7 or 8 points per game in the 3 games with Casey Thompson on the sideline. And here's a guy that put up 37 on Purdue, albeit a shaky Purdue secondary, but obviously it's a viable offense with Casey Thompson. They're completely predictable and dysfunctional without him. And then it also brings into play, of course, the best player possibly on the team, and certainly the offense, and Trey Palmer. And without Casey Thompson, Trey Palmer was catching like 3 passes for 5 yards, like just dismal performances. He's taken out of the game. Casey Thompson steps on the field against Wisconsin, and even though the passing offense didn't light it up, he throws 2 touchdown passes to Trey Palmer.
And that's with the wind. I mean, if you were inside Memorial Stadium, you knew that you needed to have the wind if you were going to throw the ball whatsoever, because, Wisconsin, I think they ran the ball like 52 or 53 times. I mean, that's unheard of. And the only time they actually tried to throw the ball was when they had the wind. So, obviously, the offense totally clicks when Casey Thompson is in there, and it's obvious that him and Trey Palmer have a really good relationship and really good chemistry. And you saw that. Nebraska put up 14 points on Wisconsin in the first half, and Trey Palmer caught 2 touchdown passes, and he's definitely a different player when Casey Thompson's out there. And he's definitely going to be a factor in Friday's game for sure. And with the Iowa secondary, that's a very proud group. I'm sure that Coach Ferentz has been already in their ears since probably Saturday night, talking about Trey Palmer.
And for the record, I think this game's going to be close, Mark. I could be wrong. I mean, it'd be just like, I hate to say this, Greg, but it'd be just like Nebraska to get blown out against a team with no offense in Iowa. But I do think it's going to be close. There's also rain in the forecast, a potential for rain. I think 40 to 50%. It sounds like maybe later in the day, but 3 p.m. Central start, so it's not a real early game. Finish under the lights. So I think it's going to be close, not just because of Iowa's offense and the inability to put up points, but I just, at some point, and it didn't happen last week against Minnesota, but at some point, one of these teams that Iowa has dominated for 6-7 years, literally, or more, is going to get theirs. Iowa State did it earlier this year, and ugly as that game was, Iowa State's not a good football team and found a way to go into Kinnick and win because Iowa's defense couldn't put up points directly, and the offense couldn't do jack squat. Now, obviously, we know Nebraska's defense has given up quite a bit. You mentioned the Purdue game. I mean, they must have played well. I didn't catch the Wisconsin game. They obviously played decently well against a subpar offense in Wisconsin.
Hey, Nebraska's defense put them in a position to win the game. I mean, if you get 2 first downs at the end of the game, you kill the clock and you win.
Yeah, so I mean, against Iowa's offense, Mark, who knows? I don't have confidence that I would not compare based on what I know, and especially given the fact that they were able to hold Wisconsin's run game somewhat in check this past week. I wouldn't expect Iowa to be able to even put up numbers like they did against Purdue or numbers against Northwestern. The fact that, and somebody said earlier this week, and you saw it, Mark, because I saw your response, somebody called it a trap game for Iowa. And I just can't come to grips with that concept. How could the final game of the season, that's a play-in game for the Big Ten championship game, a rivalry game, how could that possibly be a trap game? It's not a trap game. And it's a Kirk Ferentz. We're talking about a Kirk Ferentz team of all teams. It's not a trap game. Whether fans want to look past it, that's their own problem. But the players aren't looking past Nebraska.
Hey, this is a game. This is a game that we all know plays on the same day every year. It's not a. This is a rivalry game. This is for the Freedom Trophy. I mean, this means a lot to both schools. So there's no way in hell that this would be a trap game that anybody would ever think about. So,
and again, go back into recent history. Nebraska's been close almost every year. What, 2 of the last 3 years, or maybe I know there seems like there's blowouts like every 3 to 4 years, but every other game comes down to 1 or 2 plays. And last year, Iowa had the miraculous comeback in Lincoln, which Nebraska kind of just Nebraska'd its way out of that game.
Yep.
You had the kick from Keith Duncan. You had the kick from Miguel Racino. So I'm not saying it's going to come down to a kick. If it does, I'm pretty confident in Iowa's true freshman kicker, Drew Stevens, who's been sensational since he's taken over that job. But I think Iowa fans are getting a little ahead of themselves. Again, not scared that the players are going to start thinking that way, but I think fans are looking past Nebraska and have basically determined that, we punched our ticket to Indy.
Hey,
Mark, can you imagine the backlash?
Nebraska's coming to play on Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not laying down. I mean, this is their bowl game now. So,
can you imagine the backlash, Mark? Can you imagine the backlash if Iowa loses? We already know the backlash throughout the year because of this offense. At one point, they were 3-4, and I've given Kirk all tons of credit because the dude, he just knows how to keep his guys' heads on straight. There didn't appear to be any resentment from the defense towards the offense, and they come back and win 4 straight. And people have just already predetermined that this is a win, and Iowa's going to end up at 8-4 and in Indy the following weekend. If they lose this game and you're 7-5, and you blew your conference your division title with Nebraska at home, we're right back where we were. I mean, to some extent. So this is a big game. I was more confident in Iowa beating Minnesota last week, and I don't think fans care what I have to say, but I was more confident that Iowa was going to beat Minnesota last week on the road than I am them beating Nebraska at home. And no, it's not because it's a trap game, because it's not. But it's just the dynamic of everything. The fact that Iowa, this would be the 2nd straight week where they've played a team in which they've historically dominated, at least over the last 10 years. And they've gotten real fortunate in this series. Real fortunate in this series.